Hey, let me give you a quick review of the last 2 weeks in the book of Nehemiah. Some of you are joining us for the first time. If you'd like to, you can go on our website, coastalchurch.tv, and get caught up today. They are fine messages, if I do say so myself. This whole series, I've been like, God, help me to preach it to them like you've been preaching it to me. So we talked the first week about building our life with vision. Because how many of you know a man with no vision will always return to his past? Come on, I need you to wake up a little bit more. All right, let the coffee kick in. So we talked about this. Nehemiah hears about something that's going on in his homeland. He is brokenhearted. And he sits there, he asked this question. They said, man, he asked about his friends in Jerusalem. They're like, dude, ain't nothing changed. The walls are still torn down. Everything's been burned and everything. He goes, and the people are living below the standard that we are used to. And Nehemiah's heart is broken when he hears this. And God gives him a vision to go and begin to rebuild the walls around Jerusalem. So what happens when God breaks our heart and gives us a vision? The next thing that we do is we build our life on vision, then we build our life on prayer. Last week, we almost entitled the message, For All of Us Who Stink at Praying, all right? So we talked about how to develop a prayer life because Nehemiah shows us how to pray, and there's a great acronym. By the way, for those of you that may have missed it last week, if you were like, hey, dude, I'm kind of a guy, I kind of struggle with my prayer life, I have got in there's this little thing that you can click with your, what's that thing called? What? QR code, all right. So you take a picture of it, and it'll take you to my personal prayer list where you guys are like, hey, cut and paste, add, take away, whatever you want to be able to do. I want you to create a prayer list where you can begin to ask God for some things, and you're going to get very, very good at praying. So we talked about building our life on vision, talked about building our life on prayer, and today we're going to talk about building our life on integrity, okay? Today, we're going to talk on just 6 words, one scripture. I was cupbearer to the king. This is the whole message. Some of you are like, we are going to get out of here early. So naive of you. I am so amazed that some people are like, oh yes, one scripture, we're going to be out of here. Here's what I want to talk to. We're going to go into history. There's going to be a lot of teaching here today. Nehemiah was cupbearer to the king. And what many people may not know is this, that the cupbearer was the most trusted and influential position of the kingdom. Nobody got to start as cupbearer. This is a position that had to be earned, all right? You didn't apply for cupbearer. You were invited into this after years of faithful character and service. History shows that the king that Nehemiah was serving rose to power by killing his brothers and other people, all right? The king that Nehemiah is serving as cupbearer to, he is more or less a mafia boss, all right? And so he's a paranoid man. So he has to have a food taster and a drink tester because he's concerned about other people killing him. He's paranoid how he got his power. And so guess what happens? He has to invite a man of integrity in, and because how he got his power haunts him. Nehemiah now has to come around there and be for him what God wants to be for us, which is our protector. Nehemiah is protecting this demon-worshiping king, okay? The cupbearer was the most trusted position politically as well. Did you know if you were the cupbearer, you were also the chief of staff? Man, isn't that important? The chief of staff, not only does he solve problems, he drinks the wine first, he eats the food first. Nehemiah dies, guess what? The king goes, I shouldn't eat that, all right? Kind of an important position, right? The cupbearer also had to have a lot of other different qualities. Guess what? He had to be handsome. He had to be cultured. He had to be knowledgeable of court procedures and able to converse with the king and even advise him on certain situations. And because he was the cupbearer, he was to be a man of considerable influence. He was constantly in the king and queen's presence. He was overseeing the welcome of and serving of global dignitaries when they visited. By the way, he also served as the cupbearer to the visiting dignitaries. He had to taste all of their food, had to drink all of their drinks. Why? Because if they die while visiting you, now you got a war on your hands. Are y'all understanding the responsibility this man carries? Okay? Nehemiah was the most trustworthy man in the kingdom. And by the way, here's something over there that not a lot of people would know. Nehemiah was also most likely castrated. Some of you are like, oh God. I was sitting there thinking, I may want to be a cupbearer to somebody. No, not if it requires this. All right. Why? History says that if you're going to be in the cabinet around the king, the queen, his daughter, and his harem, that they have to eliminate even the opportunity for you to do evil for them. When we read the Bible, we also see that a guy by the name of Potiphar in the book of Genesis was also in this role. Also, Daniel, the prophet Daniel, was also castrated as he served Nebuchadnezzar. And here's what we also see here. Not only that, Nehemiah was a Jew. And that speaks not only of his ability, but also of his character, because people aren't normally willing to welcome outsiders. But Nehemiah, like Daniel, he stood out. God placed him there because he had plans for him beyond there. Why? Listen to me. Here's what, teenagers, I need you taking notes right now because I'm going to help you out. But also there are some of us today, we're going to help learn how to build a life of integrity. Some of us right now, we're in the process of rebuilding integrity. Some of you are like, dude, I have screwed up my life so much up to this point. Let me just encourage you today. It's never too late to be the person that God always meant for you to be. Okay? If you're here today and you're like, I don't even know if I believe in God, we have one word to say to you. Welcome. We built this place for you. Okay? So here's why does God place him there? Because he had plans for him there and beyond there. Why? Because write this down. Integrity today creates opportunities for tomorrow. The great philosopher Epictetus once said that the root of beauty was beautiful choices. He said, if your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. And it's simple and true. God placed Nehemiah in the town of Susa, which is the exact place where God also placed a young lady a generation before him by the name of Esther. Okay? Susa is very, very important in the Old Testament. God placed Esther in Susa to save the Jewish people from genocide, and God has now placed Nehemiah there to save Israel from irrelevance. Why do we have to talk about this today? Because wherever we may be in life or on our jobs, God, as God's child, God has sent us there, and he is positioning us there for promotion. Some of you are like, PC, I'm the janitor. Guess what? You be the best janitor, and you ain't going to be the janitor long. What do you mean? Faithful in the little things. You show up. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Even though there's only 6 words in one verse, this is one of the most important messages that I've ever preached. It'll be one of the most important messages you'll ever hear. Because wherever we are in life, we've been positioned for promotion. And while we're in this position, God wants us to be sharpening our skills like Nehemiah did. He grew during this time before he was the cupbearer. He grew in his knowledge of culture. He learned how the government operated. He had to at least look the job. You know what I'm talking about? Whenever I was 29, or I just turned 30, and I was asked, God had just took our youth ministry, made it a national youth ministry. I was a youth pastor, and then I was hired to be the executive pastor over an Atlanta mega church. It was an enormous church. I made more money than I ever made in my life. I had more opportunity. I had a downline of people I was responsible. I was in charge of more the people that served in our church that I was a part of, guest services. They all answered to me. It was more people that I looked over. There were more volunteers than there were people at the church that I just left. It was crazy. And one of the things I decided whenever I got this job, I said, I'm at least going to look like I can do the job. I had 2 things that I said, this is an absolute must in my life. Every meeting I'm going into, I'm going to shut my mouth because I'm not going to let people know how stupid I am. And then the next thing I said, Jennifer, I'm going to spend a lot of money buying some nice clothes because I'm going to look like I know what I'm doing. All right? I mean, I had me some of the nicest polo dress shirts. Went into every meeting, had me some really nice slacks, and honey, you could slice bread on the crease in my pants. I looked like I could do the darn job. For 6 months, went in those meetings, just took notes, never said a word, and guess what? All these influencers in the church began to come up to the pastor like, let me tell you something, that Chad, he's sharp. And the team was like, man, how's this guy liking you? What are you doing? I said, not saying a word. How many of y'all know that Abraham Lincoln once said, he said, it is best to remain silent and thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. And so I know what this is. And here's the thing that we see. He's sharpening his skill level. He's growing in his knowledge of culture. And he did all this while not believing in their gods. He served in a government that killed his family and friends and was taken hostage, but he was faithful. How can he do that? Because he wasn't just serving that king, he was serving the King of Kings. Wherever you are, you may have you a boss, but he ain't the ultimate boss, and she ain't the ultimate boss. You and I, we work for King Jesus. And not only that, we see he's a politically active believer. Sometimes people come to me a little bit more passive, and they're like, Pastor Chad, should Christians be politically active? And my answer to this is, well, do you want to continue to have faith, freedom, and family? Because if you do, we better be. And how important was it, think about this, how important was it for Christians to be politically active during COVID? Some of the more left-leaning states, guess what? There's a couple of guys that I know that pastor there. They said, you couldn't believe it. They said, we've never protested anything in our government until COVID happened. One guy in Minnesota, he said, in my state, he said, bars and strip clubs could have 50 people at one time. Churches could only have 20. Who is in charge determines what we can do and what we cannot do without getting in trouble with the law. Nehemiah not only knows this, he learns how to secure funding. He knows how to get building permits. He knows how to appeal to the king and gets legal documents. There's a security detail in fundraising, but we see that his highest allegiance is ultimately to Jesus Christ. Why? Because Nehemiah wants to build a wall so that the soon coming Messiah could come. All right? So for those of us today, you'll be like, okay, how do I build integrity? How do I rebuild integrity? We're going to talk about this today, and I want you to write these notes down. The first way that we build integrity is, number one, by doing the little things right. My dad used to tell me, golly, that's the most diligent human being I've ever known in my life. What does diligent mean? Do it now, do it well, do it right. My dad and I could not wash the car together when I was a teenager. He was like, don't you understand what we're trying to do? Yeah, we're trying to wash the car. I had my Walkman on, I'm listening to Metallica, exit light. You know, and my dad was like, just get out of here. You know, and because I wasn't taking it seriously. My dad drove it home to me. He said, Chad, how you do anything's how you do everything. The little things have to be done right. I recently read, some of you may have also read in Sports Illustrated, they did this, Rafael Nadal, the great tennis player, is about to retire. And they talked about Nadal after he started winning his first tournaments. He's in the middle of an interview, and as soon as the interview's over, they're like, all of a sudden his eyes went, he goes, oh my gosh. And nobody knew what he was doing, and one person began, what's he doing? They followed him. Nadal ran back onto the court and picked up the empty water bottle that he had been drinking on during the match. He said, I didn't want anybody to think, God, what an entitled guy this guy is. Ladies and gentlemen, champions do the little things right. I recently I read about this thing about Warren Buffett. He was playing golf with some guys at Pebble Beach, and they were all messing with him and stuff. They were very rich investors. They said, Warren, here's what we all met and we decided we're going to do this. This round, if you hit a hole in one, we are all going to give you $10,000. And he said, okay. And he said, but if you don't hit a hole in one, you just have to give one of us $10. And he goes, I ain't going to do it. And they said, why? He said, if I'm not disciplined in the small things, I won't be disciplined in the big ones. Ladies and gentlemen, what I would suggest to you today, and where I'm going to build a case around, is this. The quality of our lives depends upon the quality of our habits. The person who takes the small things seriously earns the trust of everybody else around them. They're seen as being disciplined and wise in their decision making. Discipline in the little thing is the ultimate act of service that we give to our future selves. Why? Because in 10 years, you and I will be paid for the actions we take every day, or we will be paying for them. By being faithful in the little things, it creates value for everybody that we encounter. Anybody who does this will eventually be presented with bigger opportunities. If you're faithful in the little things, you will eventually be given bigger opportunities, and those opportunities will dramatically change the trajectory of our lives. Can I let you know, I see so many blessed people in our church. The life that we all want is just on the other side of three things: delayed gratification, doing hard things, and enduring painful and hard seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand, how does God build things? The Bible tells us in the introduction of Genesis, he tells us this. How does God build things? Seed, time, and harvest, okay? Little by little. Little things that you can learn in situations, even when they're small. Ladies and gentlemen, when we started our Sunday services in Daphne Elementary School. The first time I went in there, that auditorium sits about 250 or 300. I was like, dear God, how in the world are we ever going to fill this thing up? I didn't have a lot of faith. I'd put out like 40 chairs, and my dad and Mr. Riley, they would go, and I would go home and take a shower, and they would come back and they'd put out more chairs and say, stop doing that. And they were like, no, God's going to send them, pastor. I'm like, you better hope. I don't want to preach to a bunch of empty chairs. And guess what? We did the little things right. We learned how to hear from God. We learned how to, we made those bathrooms look like country club bathrooms. All right? And one time there was a guy who went to our church, and then he had to go to Fairhope one day. He was at another church, and all of a sudden it hit him. He had to get to the bathroom real bad. And he's like one of those guys. He's a little skittish. He don't like going to the bathroom just anywhere. He's like, I'll tell you who's got great bathrooms, Coastal Church. And so that day we got the tail end of his business. Come on, y'all know what I'm talking about? But he was like, man, little church. And by the way, guess what happens? Little by little we began to grow. We learned different lessons, and so for so many years we were over there. We grew to 338 people on an average basis in that school. And everybody around town, they would be like, hey, we're going to come to your church when you get a building. We're like, come now. And can I tell you something? We moved here the week after Labor Day. And within 6 months, we were at 338. Within 6 months, we were over 800 on a regular basis. Why? We learned the lessons in the small place. If you will learn the teeny tiny lessons right now, let me let you know something. Not only will they guard you whenever you come into your harvest season, they will elevate you from everybody else when you come into there, all right? So how do we treat the little things that nobody else sees or cares? It builds our credibility. Some people are like, PC, I need a raise. And my boss is not listening to me. Ladies and gentlemen, our boss will not care about our dreams if we aren't handling our current responsibilities. Always keep your word. Never make excuses. A person who never makes excuses shows reliability. I love what Benjamin Franklin once wrote. He said this: a man who is good at making excuses is seldom good at anything else. Isn't that the truth? And be known, teenagers, as a finisher. Well, Pastor Chad, I thought I was going to like this particular sport, and I got in here, and it's really, really hard. You need to finish the season. I don't care what happens. My mom said I can quit. PC says you can't. That's right. Finish something. You can do hard things. Well, I'm not getting a chance to play. Go over there and bug them to death. What do I need to get better at? What do I need to get better at? That's how you get playing time. Listen to me. Where bosses hate surprises. So try your best to inform them of any change well in advance. We are living in a generation where everybody's concerned about everybody's self-esteem, right? And that's probably an important thing to do. But here's what we got to understand. We have to learn how self-esteem is built. And the one thing that we've got to understand about in this world, confidence, ladies and gentlemen, is built. It's not born. What do you mean? Confidence is built by doing hard things. You can call a guy who wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning. You can call him a lot of names. One name you can't call him is this: loser. You know why? He's already defeated his flesh. He is up. He's already accomplished the hardest thing he's going to face all day. Why is he a winner? Because it's hard. It requires discipline, and that discipline creates evidence of the power and control that we have over our lives. If you read the book of Proverbs, you see the book of Proverbs gives lots and lots of warning about the sluggard who loves to sleep. And it also will tell you this: a man who loves sleep will never grow rich. So why? You and I have to start our day, man, ready to get after it. And here's the thing: when we believe that we can do hard things, it creates confidence, even when we're feeling low. Many of us right now, we are living the life that somebody else wants because we took action and they didn't. The reason why some of us right now are sober, because we show our butts up to celebrate recovery. And there are people, I just wish I was like you. Do what I did. Show up. God works as we work. And here's one of the things you got to understand. God is sovereign, but we are responsible. And God can't even steer a parked car. You got to be moving, son. You got to be putting yourself in a position to be blessed. So here's the thing that I live my life on. We may not be smarter or more talented or resourceful. We just act when other people don't. We planned and they didn't. Our calendar, ladies and gentlemen, is the most honest autobiography that we will ever write. It doesn't matter what we say, our priorities are. Our calendar actually reveals the truth. Well, Pastor Chad, I want to be able to take my wife on a date night, but I just don't have the time. You better make time. I want to be spending more time with my kids. No. What you need to do, you need to drop your hobbies. One amen on that one. That's okay. Listen to me. There's somebody who needs to hear this right now. You need to park that boat for a while. You need to invest in your wife. You need to invest in your kids. Here's what a responsible man does. While my kids are at home, my kids are my hobbies. And then later on, whenever they go off to school, guess what? You're going to fish to your heart's content. And guess what's going to happen? Your children are going to come back and live by you. Because you invested in that time. I don't know who needed to hear that, but I think it's good preaching anyway. But here's the thing. Our calendar isn't just recording our time. It's exposing our lives. Make sure that you get your calendar ready to write. The next way that we build our integrity is by being consistent. Short-term results come from intensity. Long-term results come from consistency. Intensity, boy, that's common. Consistency, that's rare. Another word for success is the word consistency. Am I a person of my word? Do I go above and beyond? Am I a person that can be depended upon? Some of us, whenever we get our calendar under control and we start living a principled life, guess what some of your old friends are going to start saying about you? You are so lame now. Well, a couple of years ago when we got the Alexa thing at our house, I was like, Evan, man, this is a cool, somehow we got this thing, and Evan goes, I don't know, Dad. I don't know if I want Alexa. I was like, why? He goes, you know the government's probably listening in on us. I started laughing. I said, Evan, here's my goal. If the government is actually listening on us, I hope they are bored to death. I hope they're like, dear God, this guy does the same thing every day. Bobby, how does he live with this? Whenever I was studying success, I had this impression that successful people, they live this glamorous, high-flying life. I was like, I bet they just jump from event to event, from vacation to vacation, one thrill after another. And then I began to study what successful people do. Let me share you years of research, okay? Successful people, there is one dominant trait that they all possess. Look at me. I want to see the whites of your eyes whenever I tell you this, okay? Successful people are very, very boring. They do the same things over and over again. Success is built on the back of long, painful periods of extremely disciplined, boring routines. I can tell you this as a former coach. If somebody needs excitement to stay interested and motivated, they're not going to make it very far. Why? Because if you want to shine in the light, you have to embrace boredom in the dark. What should we be consistent with, PC? Consistently a good attitude. Be a good listener. Discover other people's gifts and help them to shine. Well, if I do that, they may get my promotion. No, not if that's not the way it works. Not if you understand your Bible. What you make happen for other people, God will make happen for you. And by the way, people who aren't liked, they never get promoted. Some are like, really? Yeah. You can't go to work and be a turd and expect your boss to want to promote you. All right? No, you got to be able to help people. You're a problem solver. You're a team person. You put the team before individual achievement. Here's what we got to understand about Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a castrated slave to a demon-worshiping king, okay? Watch this. How many of you, if this was you, you probably wouldn't get a very strong job performance review if this was you. Well, we've noticed your attitude's not very good. Yep, I'm a castrated slave. Don't see it getting any better, boss. This guy becomes, now it's starting to hit you, right? This guy becomes the number 2 person in the most powerful kingdom in the world. And next week, you're going to see how this opens up doors for him. We grow in integrity by consistently growing our capacity. There are some, well, I show up, I'm reliable. Are you growing in your capacity? Are you taking the time to take responsibility to keep getting better and improving? Are you a reader in your field? Are you a learner and a world-class noticer? Are you taking detailed notes and learn to notice patterns? One of the core values of our staff and our church is this: we are learn-it-alls, we are not know-it-alls. Okay? We ask questions and we invest in good resources that help us to do our job better and faster. One of the things that we always want to do, we want to get better and do big things for God and for you. Both of us, you deserve it and so does He. And when we pay the price of monotony, it creates the confidence we need to accomplish our dreams. The secret to our success is found in our daily routines. And our level of success will never exceed our levels of personal development, because success is something we attract by the people we become. Okay? Those routines build in us the virtue of faithfulness. Consistency wins over time. Reliability will take us much further than brilliance ever could. By the way, you can get really far in life by just being somebody that people can count on to show up and do the work. Reliability is one of the most underrated traits, and here's the best thing about reliability. Look at me. It's free. Just show up, be early, give your time. In the short term, it's harder to be exceptional than reliable, okay? But in the long run, being consistently reliable will make us exceptional. Reliability is where it helps us to stay in the game long enough to let compound interest of life do its magic. Being brilliant won't save us if no one can count on us. It can be hard to appreciate just how much reliability impacts our opportunities. And by the way, can I just tell you, it's fun to outperform people who are way smarter than you than just be more reliable than they are. Reliability isn't just a virtue, it's a competitive advantage that compounds over time. Other things have to be learned with time, but character is just who we are. And the final thing that we need to be consistent with your faith. Learn how to share your faith. You know what's happening in all these secular cultures right now? I love the verbiage, and I get to quote them back on that. They're like, we need you to bring your authentic selves to work. Well, honey, my authentic selves, if you don't want my apples, don't shake my tree. Because if you're around me long enough, you're going to get Jesus. Why is he sharing his faith? You told me bring my authentic self. I'm on fire for God. I love Jesus. And by the way, I can help you get better at your job. I can make this company more money because I know some stuff that y'all don't know. Yeah. Well, so how do I become a good witness on my work? You hear somebody talking about something that they're going through. Say, you know what? I'm going to pray about that. And follow up with them. Say, hey, how's the situation going with your boy? You said, he's having some hearing problems and stuff like that. Me and my wife were praying about that the other night. Let me tell you something. Even an atheist don't mind if you pray for him. The other things, when you hear people talking about, hey, I used to feel the same way. Share your testimony. People may think you're putting on a show, but they lose that argument when it's consistent. By the way, accusations are disproven through our constant character. Somebody can start running you down, and somebody that you just showed up and we don't believe it. You're a psycho. You're new here. That person, they've done stuff for a long, long time. Be a problem solver and good at your job. And by the way, when we're that way, we will have more influence than we could ever possibly imagine. I turned 50 in last March, so I'm coming up on 51 here. And I was reminded of a quote that Muhammad Ali once said this. He said, the man who views the world at age 50 the same way he did at age 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. I have found that to be so true. I remember my college graduation. But you know what? I remember more vividly our freshman orientation. Our college president said, he did this to every class. He goes, look to your right and look to your left. For every 3, 2 of y'all is going to quit. And I was like, well, okay, thank you for the trip to Negative Town, Mr. President. I mean, he was absolutely right. I remember at graduation looking around and like, I can't believe he didn't make it. God, that guy was smart. That dude was so talented. Where is he? And by the way, now today, those guys that I graduated with, I'm like, I can't believe that person isn't serving God anymore. He graduated with a degree in biblical languages and all this other stuff. This dude, he got more degrees behind his name than alphabet soup. Not serving God anymore. Why? lack of character. It took him out. Today, I look back and can I just tell you something, potential graduates, that you're going to learn in life? The class at graduations are always smaller than the class at orientation. Because graduation cost. Most people think it's too expensive. The great Zig Ziglar one time said, there is no elevator to the top of the mountain of success. You got to take the stairs. And when we start living differently, can I let you know something? Some of you right now, you're getting discouraged because some of your old friends are messing with you. Here's what I want to let you know. The price of transformation is costly. And there are going to be some of those guys who will be like, you're changing, man. You're changing. Bro, you're changed. You're obsessed. And stuff like that. And here's the problem. It's not that you've changed. It's that they haven't. Ladies and gentlemen, some of us need to adopt the philosophy, if you can't grow with me, you can't go with me anymore. I am sorry, I've got a destiny to fulfill. You either get better, you start growing up, or me and you ain't going to hang out, because the two greatest things that will take you out in this world is, number one, believing the wrong stuff, and number two is hanging with the wrong folks. And some of us, whenever we begin to start letting some of these hanger-oners go, guess what? You're going to find the friend that God has been holding out for you for the rest of your life that will get you to the next level and the next level and the next level. Come on, let's clap our hands and believe God for that. We're going to attract new and vibrant people with the energy that we're now putting out in the world. And here's the thing. Guys, what we need to understand for our plan for God's life, God's plan for our life is this. Write this down, then we're done. God's strategy for us is always deep before wide. He wants us to go deep and narrow first. He wants to form our character by doing the right things when nobody else is looking. Other things have to be learned with time, but character, that's who we are. Character is doing the right thing even when the right thing has not been done to you in your past. Character is letting hard times make you tougher without making you meaner. Ooh, I had to pray that one for a long, long time. And here's what I want to let you know. Look at me. If you and I will let God take care of the depth of our character and let him form us properly, he will then take care of the width of our influence. The greatest currency a leader has is trust. And once it's gone, so is the influence. Had a guy call me not too long ago. There was a major organizational, there was a lack of integrity. And he's like, what do I need to do? I said, you need to make sure the company knows, and you need to make sure the whole organization knows. You need to expose it. He's like, I don't know, man. What if customers find out? What if people find out? And I said, hey, can I just tell you something? You need to watch the news. You need to learn some stuff right now. People will forgive stupidity all day long. And you know what? The only things that I've learned, people will forgive sin too. Let me tell you what American people will never forgive: a cover-up. Once you lose trust and you lose influence, you're cooked. Make hard decisions. Why? Because God challenges us to do this. That's the depth of character. The cupbearer was an incredible assignment, but it was about to be over. Do you know why? Because Nehemiah was about to move from cupbearer to governor. And there's a trade-off there. He's going to sacrifice the comfort and the security of a palace for the dangers of a ruined city. The luxury he had will be replaced by ridicule and slander. That's just the job of a leader. Just want to let you know something. If you're going to call the shots, you're going to take the shots. That's just the rule. Don't complain about it. If you want to be a leader, guess what? You're going to have to take. If you don't, I tell people all the time when they come, well, these people are chewing me up behind my back. We got a saying at our house: if you don't like picking up doo-doo, don't buy a dog. Same way with being a leader. If you don't like people running you down behind your back, don't be a leader. Okay? And instead of sharing the bounties of the king, Nehemiah is going to have to personally pay for the people who eat at his table. He leaves the ease of a palace to take on a job of encouraging discouraged people and to finish an almost impossible task. Those walls have been torn down for 141 years. But in every season of our lives, God reveals himself to us in ways where his grace just runs richer and deeper. Every season, whatever season you're in right now, it helps us to know Jesus better and love Jesus more. Some of us are hurting right now. Listen to me, we're almost done. I know you're hurting. I know it seems unfair. I know it seems like you can never get past your past. It seems like, dear God, my whole life is one big start over. I know you're hurting. Look at me. Don't let that hurt trap you. Okay? Trust the character of God as He is shaping your character. Maybe it never gets easy, but you know what? Your capacity will get bigger. And then, guess what? Then God's going to elevate you. I just want you to be encouraged today. Some of us give it to God every day. Don't let the hurt trap you. Get some good friends around you to help you. Get in a small group, maybe even meet with a counselor to help you process all this. But here's the plan. We just keep moving forward, right? God's plan for us is wide, but He has to take us deep first, where we have integrity. And guess what? When we have integrity, our words have weight. It's how we create generational blessing. It's how the Gulf Coast will be saved. And listen to me, how the Gulf Coast will be saved, summed up in 6 words. I was cupbearer.